Hello, Unstoppable Writers. My name is Deanne Welsh, and I'm the founder of Unstoppable Writers as well as a writing coach. If you are here joining me live, go ahead and type in here. If you are watching the replay, go ahead and type in replay. I love hearing from you and connecting to you. If at any time you have questions, leave those in the comments and I'll come back to them later. Today we are going to talk about how to get started with writing and break through the biggest barriers to beginning. The fact that you might be asking yourself, where do I start with writing, means that you have a burning desire to write. So let's stop a moment, and first of all, you need to acknowledge that that burning desire is unique. Not everyone has that burning desire. Not everyone thinks about possibly writing and what that would look like. And so the fact that you are thinking about this means that you should probably write. That's that burning desire, that nudging in your spirit that you want to write. That's something to pay attention to and not to push aside. And so today we're going to talk about two sides of beginning to write. And there's the practical side, which is pretty simple. And then there's the emotional side, which is where we run into all those barriers to getting started. So let me give you the practical, and then we're going to dive into the emotional barriers that we face and how to combat those, and then we'll touch on the practical at the end. Now, if you're here, I see a couple people just jumped on. Go ahead and type here. I'd love to see you. And I would love to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, tell me where you are. 1 is I have not started writing, I'm thinking about it, but I'm just not sure. Go ahead and type in a 1. If you are a 10, say I've committed, I'm writing, I'm doing it consistently, or at least I'm trying to. So somewhere between 1 and 10, tell me if you haven't started yet, but thinking about it is 1, and 10 is I write consistently, I'm committed, I'm all in. So let me see what your numbers are. I love interacting with you guys, as you know. And sometimes there's a bit of a delay, so I can't see your numbers yet, but go ahead and put those in. 7, great. Hi, Donna. La Rosa, somewhere between 8 and 10. That's great. So some of you are more on that upper end of the scale that you've already committed, you're in. I love that. So practically, if you are beginning with your writing, how to get started, the first thing to do that I'm sure you've heard is just to start. So often we think we have to have every single one of our ducks in a row and know exactly what we're doing, exactly what our book is going to be about. But in reality, just the act of starting to write is huge. And it can be a journal, it can be brainstorming on a piece of paper. The great thing about writing is that as we write, we gain clarity. And so don't wait until you have all the clarity before you start. Go ahead and start, and the clarity will come. The second thing that you can do to start writing is set tiny goals. Again, it's so easy to look around and compare ourselves to people who are where we want to be or who are further along than we want to be, and to get discouraged. And so instead of doing that, focus on where you are and what's the smallest, like the least amount viable action that you can do to push yourself forward. And with a tiny goal, you don't want it to have any resistance. So if I decide I'm going to write every day for an hour, that's going to be really hard to do if I have not been writing. But if I decide I'm going to write every day for at least 5 minutes, when I think about that, when I say it, there's little to no resistance because 5 minutes, I can do that. And so when you're creating your tiny goal, pick something that's doable and achievable and feels almost easy, because once you're doing that 5 minutes, you will probably write for longer than 5 minutes, but this gets you started. So in the comments, tell me, do you currently have a tiny goal? What is your daily goal with writing? I would love to hear about that in the comments. And while you're typing, I'm going to move to the next point, and this is that as you start writing, And you might want to write this phrase in your office, but know that it's about movement and not perfection. You can learn everything you need to know about writing. You can hire an editor to get rid of all those mistakes. But the important thing is that you're moving forward. And so I really want to encourage you, embrace that mindset as you write, whether you're a beginner or you're consistently writing. Know that it's about movement. Keep moving forward. Let me read your comments here. Donna, you said 5 minutes sounds good and you use napkins. I've done that too. I want to encourage you, especially if you're beginning writing, to figure out a way to organize your writing. Even if you're not clear where you're going, it's really hard to go back when we have a lot of different notebooks or a lot of different papers everywhere. And so even as you're writing, if you think of, oh, this is a great book idea, create a file or a Word document and put everything related to it in that. So the organization is huge. And then 5 minutes, daily goal is simply to sit and write. La Rosa, okay, so even if you are sitting and you just do it for like a minute, at least you sat down. That's a great tiny goal. And then Donna, you said 1 post a week. I love that. Those are great tiny goals. So those are the practical side. Let me go ahead and say them again, and then we're going to dive into the emotional side. So again, for practically starting to write, you want to just start. You want to have tiny goals so there's not a lot of resistance, easy to achieve. And then thirdly, it's about that movement, not about perfection. And so now I want to move into where we run into barriers with our writing. And the interesting thing is that the barriers are usually emotional. And so it can be anything from why should I write? Why should I start? Who do I think I am? No one's going to want to listen to me. Because deciding to write can feel really audacious, and there's all this doubt that's going to come flooding in. Because when we decide to create the space, create the time to actually voice what we're thinking and feeling and to write down stories and posts, there's self-doubt is going to be right around the corner. As soon as we start taking that movement, doubt, just comes out really quickly and says, who do you think you are? What are you doing? No one's going to read that. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. And that is normal. So there's doubt. There's self-sabotage even. So with all of our resources today, it's so easy to think, I'm not going to start my book yet. I have to figure out how to draft the perfect book. And so we spend hours on Google. We're signing up for random webinars. We're doing all these things because we think if I just had one more piece of information, if I just knew this, then I could start. And in reality, if you go ahead and start now, those resources will come. And that's the hard part, just starting. So again, self-sabotage happens, and what I call all of these lies and doubts that come in, I actually name them dragons because they feel like dragons. They are huge, they're towering, they can make me feel numb, overwhelmed, discouraged, and if I'm not careful, those dragons can influence and dictate my actions. And so if you are facing those lies, if you are facing those dragons, I want to encourage you, first of all, to acknowledge it. Instead of trying to push it away or be like, there's not a dragon, I'm fine, I want you to look at that dragon and acknowledge it. And you can write in your journal, you can just say aloud to a friend, you can process internally. Just acknowledge, I am feeling really insecure right now. I'm filled with self-doubt. And as you acknowledge it and name it, it becomes smaller because once you name and acknowledge it, you get to decide. Am I going to listen and act based on this dragon, or am I going to choose a different way? And so once you've acknowledged it, you can then decide, you know what, I'm really feeling insecure about this, I'm filled with self-doubt, but I'm going to go ahead and move forward because I love writing, I believe in what I'm saying, you know what, I have gotten good feedback in the past, whatever it takes to keep taking those steps forward. Okay, so let's recap real quick, and if you have questions, pop them in there while I'm recapping. So again, to practically start with writing, it's pretty simple. You just start. You create your tiny goals. You remember that it's about movement, not perfection. And then for the emotional side, which is where most writers struggle, where most humans struggle, is we want to acknowledge our emotions, whether it's doubt, fear, insecurity, feeling stuck. We want to acknowledge it and name it. And then we want to actively choose not to obey that lie and give it more footing. But instead acknowledge it and then decide, but I'm going to write that blog post anyway, but I'm going to keep investing in my writing 5 minutes a day. I'm going to take the next step. So I hope that encourages you. I would love to hear your tiny goals in the comments. I would love to hear if you're brave, even what is the lie that you struggle with the most. I know for me, the biggest dragon in my life, through various circumstances, is just the lie that you're not important. And so it's easy when I'm doing something new or, stretching what I've done in the past, it's easy for that lie to come up and say, you're not important, nobody cares. And thankfully, I'm so familiar with that now that I can recognize it and acknowledge it and then move forward. So I love hearing from you guys. We'll be in touch soon. Oh, and before I forget, you've probably seen the post, but our Catapult Online Writing Conference opened today. And so be sure that you check it out. We have so much great content, and all 5 of us who are speaking are really excited for the opportunity to help you set aside that time before the rush of the holidays, before we're all the way into January, to invest in your writing, prepare for 2018. So check out the group. There's a link, and I'll put a link in the comments here too. And if you have any questions, I'm here. We'll be in touch soon. Have a great Thanksgiving week if I do not talk to you before then. Bye.